San Francisco's Reparation Committee have proposed that every eligible black citizen in the city should receive a $5 million payout, a total bill of at least $50 billion. The city's residents will be eligible if they can prove to the authorities that they are descendant from a 19th century black slave. So is the city of San Francisco right to pay every victim of slavery $5 million each? Ali?
No, they're absolutely wrong. And they're wrong for a simple reason. Look, slavery was an absolute, it was an abhorrent thing, and it's totally unforgivable. That's clear. But there was no history of slavery in this state. And what are we trying to do here? You're basically compensating people who are now not slaves, and that money is going to have to come from people who did not actually put them into slavery either. So it's an issue going back generations. And I think fundamentally here, Mark, the problem is that we're inculcating a real victim mentality, which removes agency from people to actually take control of their own lives. There are serious issues in the US around people from the black community not achieving economically what they should be, and there are maybe several issues for that. I don't believe that structural racism is everywhere, but there are issues to deal with. So there are race issues, but seeing structural racism everywhere is a nightmare. And one of your colleagues, your former colleagues, Inaya Fuller and Iman, she set up this thing called the Equiano Project. I was there in Cambridge listening to academics from both sides of the pond, people like John McWhorter from Columbia, Glenn Lowry from Brown, serious figures saying that this kind of mentality that's being inculcated here is deeply unhelpful. It removes agency from people to change their fortunes, change their lives for the better by simply seeing people as victims. And what you're going to have now is other groups there are going to say, well, hang on, what about us? What about we're Native Americans? Why aren't we getting compensation?
They did.
Right? So there are going to be different groups. What you're trying, instead of trying to bring people together here and remove any race issues that may exist, and there are race issues that exist, I don't think we can deny that, but seeing structural racism around every corner is deeply unhelpful, and you inculcate division rather than try and see beyond that.
What do you think, Lin Mei?
I think you're conflating a lot of things here. You saying, not everyone was a slave and so on and so forth, then I'll pose two questions to you. So when the British decided to abolish slavery, which they did, brilliant, they had to compensate the slave owners. And we recently stopped paying in 2015 via our taxes to compensate the slave owners. So if you believe, OK, it was a long time ago, I want my tax back, because you're saying there's an argument to be had as to why people that had nothing to do with slavery, and I agree, should have to pay this, and it's going to cause division. But I, as a descendant from slavery, my taxes went on compensating my forefathers' slave owners. So if that's the case, why then? And one thing I'll have to agree, from a fiscal point of view, it doesn't make sense. If every single black person in San Francisco is to receive $5 million, that's $50 billion, they cannot afford it. However, there's an argument to be said, if we can find billions for Ukraine and we can find billions for everything else, and the Germans found billions for the Jewish communities, why can't we have some of that?
Okay, so why can't I have reparations for the fact that my parents originally come from Pakistan, and the British made an absolute hash of it when there was a partition, with over 1 million people dying?
My mother's from Pakistan. I totally agree.
So I'm not calling for reparations.
You're owed loads of money.
Well, this is it. From each end.
Slavery not a global trade as well?
No.
And associated with every empire.
I completely
You could go
agree.
back 1,000 years.
I completely agree with that. I'm not saying, it's something that... it's abhorrent if it doesn't happen. I've conceded to the idea it may not happen. It's not going to hold me back in life. I'm going to do well. I don't care if it doesn't happen. But if there is something that can aid or produce money for the descendants of people that were faced with slavery, why can that not happen? Why would anyone be angry at that? If you're angry at that, then you should be angry at Germany also compensating the Jewish community.
Well,
why could they get compensation?
How is it helping? How is it helping people now, descendants of slavery? How is it going to help them with job opportunities, with education? How is it going to help them with their lives now?
I think there's a middle ground here, OK? Yes.
2.5 million?
Yeah, 2.5 million, which goes to me because I also, have a trauma from partition, generational trauma. And if Ali gets money, I'm telling you now, I'm going to be fighting him for that money, right? But I think there is a middle ground. I think this is ridiculous. You can't give this much money out like individuals, and the people. It's very undignified. You have to queue up and show that you were a child.
I don't mind that. If I can do that, I don't mind.
You're going to get 5 million.
These individuals,
5 million.
San Francisco has poverty. These individuals might not be the poorest citizens of San Francisco.
Exactly. So you don't know. I don't know how you do it. However, I do think there needs to be a lot more done for the black communities in America, which is racist. I'm sorry, Ali. I disagree with you. In fact, I think we've got all the diversity, inclusion things. I think that should be happening in America. America needs a lot more.
But we're importing a lot of that. The issue about structural racism is imported from America, but we are different from America. We don't have the same story as America.
In America, you still do need to help fix the problem that was caused years ago. However, I don't think you can go back to history and fix problems. You need to fix
It's not about it fixing problems,
you need to fix what's happening now with those communities.
I agree. You said, Ali, what would it do? Is it going to increase jobs? I agree. But if I lose my leg today and I ask for compensation, it's not going to bring me my leg back, but I want to be compensated.
Yeah, but you're talking about your great ancestors' legs here. You're not talking about your legs.
Yeah.
Right? On that basis,
but do you think that hasn't affected us?
No. But lots of things may have affected me in the fact that there was a partition.
And if you can get some money from it...
Why would I? No.
Then you should be able...
What about slavery that's happening today? What about teenagers mining for lithium in the Congo?
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. And
surely is that where the resources should go?
Where I would support Ali is that they are lining up to say we can prove that we were a part. Where does that stop then? Who gets it? And there was an economist, I said this before, there was an economist that said, if all of the descendants of the... Because it's so many years now, I agree, it should have been done ages ago. There's so many descendants now. It would completely and utterly bankrupt the West. So that's no use to me because I'm in the West. So I agree, it doesn't financially make sense.
OK.
But if it can happen, why not? I'll be in line.
Fascinating debate. This show's all about opinions. What's yours? Mark at gbnews.uk.